Good morning, students. Today we start with the supplementary reader snapshots. The first story in this book is titled The Summer of the Beautiful White Horse. The writer William Sarian, he talks about two young children, their thoughts, their desires, passions, and the impact of family values on them. Students, every family has its uniqueness, which carries on from generation to generation. Now, this uniqueness can be in terms of their peculiar traits, their customs, their beliefs and ideals, their convictions, their behavior, even in the celebration of religious festivals, the social etiquettes that they follow, their dress code, the vacation that they go for together, or even the norm of meeting at one time of the day, and certain ethical values which become a part of their strong reputation. The two young children that William talks about are the descendants of the Groglanian tribe, which is known for its honesty and trust. Now, these two boys, Aram and Murad, they belong to Armenia. They're two Armenian boys. Armenia is in the west of Asia on the border of Turkey. The story starts with the protagonist Aram recollecting his childhood days. He says, "One day back there in the good old days when I was 9, and the world was full of every imaginable kind of magnificence, and life was still a delightful and mysterious dream." Magnificence means everything which is beautiful and splendid. Children are always lost in the world of fantasy. So they ride on the wings of imagination and find everything alluring and charming around them. And he says life at that time was still delightful and mysterious dream. Because for young children, life is so beautiful that they want to explore more and more. Life is always rosy for them because they've never experienced any kind of a trial or any struggle of life. And then he says, my cousin Murad, who was considered crazy by everybody who knew him except me. So he talks about his cousin Murad. He said everybody considered him to be crazy. Crazy means he was considered to be a maniac, an insane person, and even silly. They thought he was silly. He says, but I did not feel that. So Murad came to my house at 4 in the morning and woke me up tapping on the window of my room. Aram, he said. I jumped out of bed and looked out of the window. I couldn't believe what I saw. It wasn't morning yet, but it was summer, and with daybreak not many minutes around the corner of the world, it was light enough for me to know I wasn't dreaming. So something that he saw outside, he could see it was real, and the light was enough. It was dawn time. It was enough light for him to see what he could see outside the window. My cousin Murad was sitting on a beautiful white horse. So what he saw, it was a beautiful white horse, and he says it was real. Wasn't dreaming. It was not his imagination. He could actually see him sitting on a beautiful white horse. I stuck my head out of the window and rubbed my eyes. On one hand, he says it was real, it was not his imagination. Yet he rubbed his eyes because he couldn't believe. He was wonderstruck, he was startled. He was in amazement to see a beautiful white horse. Yes, he said in Armenian, it's a horse, you're not dreaming. Make it quick if you want to ride. I knew my cousin Murad enjoyed being alive more than anybody else who had ever fallen into the world by mistake. Being alive means Aram knew his cousin lived life to the fullest. He loved adventure, he was very daring by nature, so he enjoyed all the thrill more than anybody else. But this was more than even I could believe. But what he saw in front of his eyes, the white horse, and that too Murad had got it, he could not believe. Why? Because Murad getting a white horse was beyond Aram's expectations. In the first place, my earliest memories had been memories of horses, and my first longings had been longings to ride. So now he remembers that how he always wanted to have a horse and ride it. He always yearned to have a horse and ride it. He says this was a wonderful part. He always imagined to have it. In the second place, we were poor. He says, now there were two memories. One was that he always yearned to have a horse and ride it, and secondly, that they were poor. This was the part that wouldn't permit me to believe. Which part? He refers to the part of being poor. He says that is why I could not believe that that Murad had got the horse and that actually they could afford to have that white horse. We were poor, we had no money. Our whole tribe was poverty stricken. Every branch of the Groglinian family was living in the most amazing and comical poverty. Now he says he wondered that how could be so blessed to have this desire fulfilled. When they were poor, they could not afford it. So he says, now this was something very amazing and comical, that though we lived in poverty, yet they were happy. He says amazing because why he says the poverty was amazing for them? They were very poor, poverty ridden, yet managed to survive. And comical again at the same time, there was no growth in the tribe, yet they were all living. Nobody could understand where we ever got money enough to keep us with food in our bellies, not even the old men of the family. Most important of all, though, we were famous for our honesty. We had been famous for our honesty for something like 11 centuries, even when we had the wealthiest family in what we like to think was the world. So 11 centuries, that means he says the instinct of honesty had carried from generation to generation for 11 centuries. They had a reputation of being the honest tribe. Now this characteristic of this tribe or this trait of honesty was so dominant that even poverty did not make them fall a prey into any temptation. And then he says, even when we had the wealthiest family in what we like to think was the world. Now, Aram is comparing his present life, now that they are poverty stricken, poverty ridden, and then when he's comparing it to the times when their ancestors were very wealthy, they were rich, they were affluent. He feels that life of affluence would have been wonderful. It would have been the complete world. So he feels proud of it. And then he says, we were proud first, honest next, and after that we believed in right and wrong. None of us would take advantage of anybody in the world, let alone steal. So this shows that they were very ethical people. They had strong values. None of us would take advantage of anybody, that they could never cheat or deceive anyone. Stealing was a far off thing. Consequently, even though I could see the horse so magnificent, even though I could smell it so lovely, even though I could hear it breathing, so exciting, I couldn't believe the horse had anything to do with my cousin Murad, or with me, or with any of the members of the family. Now, Aram says that he could see, he could smell it. That means he was so captivated by the presence of the horse, he was so enchanted. He knew it was real, but yet he could not believe that they could own it, or that it actually belonged to him or Aram or any members of the family. He says, asleep or awake, because I knew my cousin Murad couldn't have bought the horse. Asleep or awake means under any circumstance, under no circumstance could they own the horse. Even in the sleep, they could not make a mistake of owning the horse. He was so sure of it. He says, I was sure Murad couldn't have bought the horse. He could not afford. And if he couldn't have bought it, he must have stolen it. And I refused to believe he had stolen it. He was so sure about his cousin Murad and about his family traits. He says, or perhaps the values in them were so strong, and it was very clear to him that Murad had not stolen it. This actually shows the conflict in this mind of Aaron. He's actually trying to reckon, he's trying to calculate from where did that horse come. He says, no member of the Grigorian family could be a thief. I stared first at my cousin, then at the horse. Somehow this thought of stealing a horse or reckoning how it had come there, he was trying to calculate that. He says there was a pious stillness and humor in each of them. So when he looked at the horse and Murad, he could find a pious stillness. Pious stillness means a kind of a purity of souls of both the horse and the cousin, Murad, and humor in each of them. Humor here means something very absurd, something very strange. He says, I found it very strange, very quizzical in the fact that there was a white horse in front of them. Their long lost desire was being fulfilled, but it was equally disbelieving that Murad had stolen it. He says, but this on one hand delighted me and on the other hand frightened me. Now why delighted me? Because he was happy, his longing or yearning for riding a horse was getting fulfilled. And on the other hand frightened, he was a little perplexed. The anxiety of being caught or the unusual fear lurked in him, because one, he did not know from where the horse had come, and secondly, the fear of being caught and finally bringing a bad name to the family. Murad, I said, where did you steal this horse? Leap out of the window, he said, if you want to ride. It was true then, he had stolen the horse. Why does he say it was true? Earlier he is not ready to believe, but now he says it was true because Aram's question is being avoided by Murad. Murad does not answer his question, but he tries to evade it. He tries to evade all the inquiry made by Aram. So this gives a hint to Aram that he has stolen the horse. There was no question about it. He had come to invite me to ride or not, as I chose. Now the dilemma before Aram was whether he wanted to ride the horse or not. It was for him to decide whether he wanted to make the best use of the opportunity or not. Obviously, he says, well, it seemed to me stealing a horse for a ride was not the same thing as stealing something else, such as money. Now see the child's psyche. Here we see that Aram is overpowered by emotions. He is 9-year-old, yet he is very firm in his values. But somehow, when the passion comes in front of him, he gets tempted. He surrenders to the feeling of the thrill that he would get riding the horse. So he tries to give a plea for himself. He says, for all I knew, maybe it wasn't stealing at all. Now he says, if you were crazy about horses the way my cousin Murad and I were, it wasn't stealing. What he wants to say is that if we, he's trying to resolve the conflict himself. He gives a defense for himself, he tries to plea for himself, and he says, if one gets an opportunity to fulfill one's strong urge and get happiness out of it, it is not as same as stealing money. He said it would be stealing until we offered to sell the horse, which of course I knew we would never do. So he says they were very sure that they would never steal the horse. He was so confident, he was so strong in his values that the cousin and him would never sell it. Let me put on some clothes, I said. All right, he said, but hurry. I leaped into my clothes. I jumped down to the yard from the window and leaped up onto the horse behind my cousin Murad. That year we lived at the edge of town on Walnut Avenue. Behind our house was the country, vineyards, orchards, irrigation ditches, and country roads. In less than 3 minutes, we were on Olive Avenue, and then the horse began to trot. Trot means it started galloping, it started running at a speedy pace. The air was new and lovely to breathe. The feel of the horse running was wonderful. My cousin Murad, who was considered one of the craziest members of our family, began to sing. So they were enjoying, they were getting excited. He says, I mean, he began to roar. Roar means they were so excited, so thrilled, they were feeling triumphant, as if they had achieved something. They were overjoyed. Every family has a crazy streak in it somewhere, and my cousin Murad was considered the natural descendant of the crazy streak in our tribe. Crazy streak? A peculiar trait, an inborn quality that a family has. So, this instinct of being crazy, Murad had inherited from his tribe. Before him was our uncle Khusraw, an enormous man with a powerful head of black hair and the largest moustache in the Saint Janquin Valley. So he says this streak, before Murad could get it, it was in Uncle Khusraw. Now this Uncle Khusraw is an enormous man, a stout built man with a powerful head of black hair and the largest moustache. A man so furious in temper, so irritable, so impatient that he stopped anyone from talking by roaring, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." So Uncle Khusraw, he is the member of the family, perhaps from whom Murad has inherited this crazy streak, but in different intensity, because Uncle Khusraw was a very short-tempered man. He was so furious in temper, short-tempered, irritable, very intolerant, restless. He was very impulsive, and that he stopped anyone from talking by roaring. Uncle Khusraw was so impatient that he would not listen to anybody. He would not let anyone talk, but he would end the talk by using a cliched statement. A cliched statement, he would always say, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." Cliched statement is people have a habit of repeating after every talk. Perhaps Uncle Khusraw also, by saying this, used to show his superiority. And he was under this wrong impression that he was the most wise. Actually, he proved himself to be foolish. And this we get to know. That was all, no matter what anybody happened to be talking about. Once it was his own son Arak running 8 blocks to the barber's shop where his father was having his moustache trimmed to tell him that the house was on fire. This man, Khusraw, sat up in the chair and roared, "It's no harm, pay no attention to it." The barber said, "But the boy says your house is on fire." So Khusraw roared, "Enough, it is no harm, I say." So he proved that he was a foolish man. My cousin Murad was considered the natural descendant of this man, although Murad's father was Zorab, who was practical nothing else. So Zorab was the father of Murad. He was a very practical and a very simpleton man, but Murad had not acquired any of his traits. Zorab was the biological father of Murad, but Murad did not get any kind of traits from him. That's how it was in our tribe. A man could be the father of his son's flesh, but that did not mean that he was also the father of his spirit. So what he wants to say is, he says the dominant characteristics of the father were not present in Murad. Rather, he had acquired the crazy streak as of his uncle Khusraw. So when it says the father, a man could be the father of his son's flesh, but not the father of his spirit, it means a son may resemble his father in looks and appearance, in physical body, but may not exhibit the same characteristics. He may show different traits from his father. The distribution of the various kinds of spirit of a tribe had been from the beginning capricious and vagrant. So Aram says, well, this kind of deviation or the erratic, capricious means erratic, uneven distribution. He says this kind of an uneven distribution was a typical characteristic of their tribe. It was a peculiarity of their tribe. We rode and my cousin Murad sang. For all anybody knew, we were still in the old country, where at least according to some of our neighbors we belonged. So now they went riding into the country, enjoyed themselves, and he says, some of our neighbors we belonged. They went to the countryside, whereas presently they were staying in the Walnut Avenue. He says the people in the Walnut Avenue actually felt that we were country folks. So we let the horse run as long as it felt like running. They both enjoyed the ride in the countryside and the places that they were already acquainted with. At last my cousin Murad said, "Get down, I want to ride alone." "Will you let me ride alone?" I asked. "That is up to the horse." My cousin said, "Get down." Up to the horse? Now Murad is being a little sarcastic. He says, he tries to jeer at Aram. He says, it depends on the horse. "We shall see. The horse will let me ride," I said. "We shall see," he said. "Don't forget that I have a way with the horse." So now Murad is a little pumped up. He's very confident of his riding skills. And he says, "Well, I have a way with the horse. I know how to manage horses." "Well," I said, "any way you have with the horse, I have also." Now Aram did not want to be let down. He says, "Well, even I know how to manage the horses." For the sake of his safety, he said, let us hope so. Again, he's a little sarcastic. "Get down." "All right," I said, "but remember, you've got to let me try to ride alone." I got down and my cousin Murad kicked his heels into the horse and shouted, "Vizier, run." Now Aram did not want to annoy him at any cost because he wanted to have a ride all by himself. So he got down. Immediately Murad, he kicked the heels of the horse and he shouted, "Vizier." Vizier means thank you in Armenia. The Armenian language means thank you. He says, "Thank you, Aram," and he kicks the horse and it spurs into action. The horse starts to run. The horse stood on its hind legs, snorted, and burst into a fury of speed. That was the loveliest thing I had ever seen. So you can see the picture here. Murad sitting on the horse. He says this was the loveliest thing I'd ever seen. So he was thrilled to see Murad riding the horse so well. My cousin Murad raced the horse across a field of dry grass to an irrigation ditch, crossed the ditch on the horse, and 5 minutes later returned dripping wet. Dripping wet because he had rode it and he was sweating. The sun was coming up. Now it's my turn to ride, I said. My cousin Murad got off the horse. "Ride," he said. I leaped to the back of the horse and for a moment knew the most awful fear imaginable. Imaginable because he was not very sure whether he'll be able to ride the horse, but somehow he wanted to. The horse did not move. "Kick into his muscles," my cousin Murad said. "What are you waiting for? We've got to take him back before everybody in the world is up and about." I kicked into the muscles of the horse. Once again it reared and snorted. Then it began to run. I didn't know what to do. Instead of running across the field to the irrigation ditch, the horse ran down the road to the vineyard of Dikrin Halbia, where it began to leap over vines. The horse leaped over 7 vines before I fell. Now Murad could manage the horse, but somehow Aram could not, and he fell off the horse, but the horse continued to run. My cousin Murad came running down the road. "I'm not worried about you," he shouted. "We've got to get that horse. You go this way and I'll go this way. If you come upon him, be kindly and I'll be near." So now Murad was worried lest the horse should run away. He says, "Let's go and find and take the either way. If you come upon him, be kindly." And he instructs his cousin that you have to be very gentle with him. I continued down the road and my cousin Murad went across the field towards the irrigation ditch. It took him half an hour to find the horse and bring him back. All right, he said, jump on. The whole work is awake now. So they managed to get the horse. What will we do? I said. Well, he said, we'll either take him back or hide him until tomorrow morning. He didn't sound worried, and I knew he would hide him and not take him back. He didn't sound worried. Murad was very complacent, very calm, because he knew what he had to do. He already had the plan in his mind. And Aaron says, I knew that he would hide it. Not for a while at any rate. Where will we hide him? I said. I know a place. How long did you steal this horse? I said. It suddenly dawned on me that he had been taking these early morning rides for some time and had come for me this morning only because he knew how much I longed to ride. Now he knew his cousin very well. So he knew that he had already been riding the horse for many days, and that day he had come to Aaron. Who said anything about stealing a horse? He said. Anyhow, I said, how long did you begin riding every morning? See the change. He immediately reframed his question because he did not want to annoy Murad. Not until this morning, he said. Are you telling the truth? Of course not, he said. So now you can make out Murad also is very honest. He says, well, yes, I'm not telling the truth. I'm lying here. But he says, if we are found out, that's what we have to say. What we have to say that we found it this morning only. I don't want both of us to be liars. All you know is that we started riding this morning. So he tries to convince him that the only answer that we are supposed to give is that they found the horse today and they started riding it today itself. He says, I don't want both of us to be liars. So somewhere down the line he knows that they cannot let the family values, they have to live by the family values. All right, I said. He walked the horse quietly to the barn of a deserted vineyard, which at one time had been the pride of a farmer named Fezwa. So he quietly took the horse to the barn. Barn is the place where the grains are stored, and that barn belonged to the farmer. There were some oats and dry alfalfa in the barn. So there were some kind of seeds. Alfalfa is a kind of a seed that was stored in the barn. We began walking home. It wasn't easy, he said, to get the horse to behave so nicely. Again, he's trying to be little superior and trying to show his superiority to Aaron, that he had a tough time managing the horse. At first, it wanted to run wild, but as I've told you, I have a way with the horse. I can get it to want to do anything. I want it to do. Horses understand me. So what he wants to say that he knows how to manage the horses and the horses understand him. How do you do it? I have an understanding with the horse, he said. Yes, but what sort of an understanding? A simple and honest one, he said. Well, I said, I wish I knew how to reach an understanding like that with the horse. So Aram also desired that he could manage the horse as Murad could. He also wanted to ride as comfortably as Murad did. You're still a small boy, he said. When you get to be 13, you'll know how to do it. So he's trying to pacify his younger cousin that don't worry, once you grow, you'll be able to manage. I went home and ate a hearty breakfast. So that's for today. We continue the rest of the lesson in the next class. Thank you, students.